Good. Look, I think the budget today has been a missed opportunity in the main. While there are some nice bits and pieces in it to keep us all happy, or certain sectors happy for the moment, in this time of severe crisis with the pandemic, I think there's a missed opportunity to deal with, the waste and to deal with the way that money is not percolating down. The money that's announced in the different sectors is not percolating down to the ordinary person on the street. The announcement of the new COVID restriction support scheme of up to €5,000 per week for businesses impacted by COVID-19 at level 3 or higher, that's very, very welcome, and it's needed in the industry, certainly. Budget 2021 also provides an additional €55 million support scheme for tourism, but the tourism industry has been totally decimated, and this comes very late. So, the 55 million will do little or nothing for the tourism industry, which is a huge importance to all our counties outside of Dublin, and indeed to Dublin as well. And we can see Dublin at the moment is a standstill. The commercial rates waiver, this is a very welcome decision because we have had that, and now it's extended to the end of the year and beyond, and that's very badly needed also because these things are a lifeline. The very welcome decision of businesses who continue to struggle with the dreadful fear that they may have to be extended further, and these supports, they may have to be extended further. And we're living from month to month or 3 months to 3 months is not good enough. The PUP payment, the decision to allow those in receipt of the pandemic unemployment payment to earn up to €480 per month or €120 per week for casual work. It's not casual work. It's work that when they're in a job self-employed under contracts, it might be your plumber, Lescon Kohler, or my plumber or electrician or whatever works, that vital work that we need to have carried out. And they need to be able to look after you in these times on the pandemic payment, because otherwise they might lose you as a customer. They have to keep their business viable, so that's vital that they allow it. And it's a bit restrictive, I think, the 480 a month, because you know what I call it from a plumber. I mentioned a plumber, but it could be the same with the road maker, it's the same with the electrician or the sparker, anybody that you get. So it's important that we keep those people active and ready to be there when they want it. Minister, the VAT cut is way too little and it's way too late. Going from 13.5% now down to 9 is just wasted exercise, because first of all the businesses are closed at the moment under this current lockdown, and we're going to have more lockdowns if the powers that be in effort get their way. And we have a paper there from Dr. Navarro in the World Health Organization who has said, and I put this to Dr. Houlihan yesterday and to the Taoiseach and others, that lockdowns haven't worked all over Europe and all over the world. Lockdown's not the way to go. So, we have conflicting messages. The problem I see with this is that we don't have, while I respect their qualifications as scientists and doctors, yes, but we don't have the people representing business in there. We don't have the Garda Síochána in there who have to try and deal with all the issues that are out there with that. We don't have, as I said, somebody representing self-employed. And we need a wide variety. There's 40 on effort, so we need a good mixture of people. There's plenty of room there, and above all, it needs to be reshuffled. And not to demonise any of the people in there, but we need to understand the impacts and the full impacts of the lockdowns. Disability services, yes, the money provided there, but again, will that money go down, percolate down? And the centres that have been closed and the people that have been locked away, the people that need these services that are brought on the bus and brought to school, they have been locked away for 9 months over them now almost, and they have regressed enormously, and our families are suffering as well. And we need, again, it's welcome money, but it's too little, too late. The mental health services, my goodness. Look, we have increased 38 million extra mental health services. Any modicum of reasonable people that have assessed this area know that we need up to 100 million invested there. Take my own county of Tipperary. We don't have one long-term mental health bed. We have fought for since the Vision for Change. The Vision for Disaster is what it turned out to be. Closed our psychiatric long-stay beds in St. Michael's and Clonmel. Now we're spending 2.1 million in it under COVID, but yet we won't have one single mental health long-stay bed or short-stay bed. We have a crisis house and we're waiting for it to go to tender with the last 2 years. So, the people have suffered enormously with the pandemic, and now going into the winter and the short days and long nights, they're going to be greater need for that. And I think think it's awful. And I will push to have extra funding, and I will keep raising it here until we get some modicum of decent service for the people who are there suffering with mental health and other kind of psychotic efforts, and just a bit of depression really, and because of lack of work, lack of stimulation, lack of money and everything else. Minister, also the money for the arts, and I welcome that money as well, but will this money percolate? The Arts Council gets a big chunk of it, always do. Well, will that percolate down to the Rinka Scholar, to the dancing schools who have been totally stopped up, to the musicians, and you know what I mean, to the people that entertain in our bars and keep us all going? This is the problem. The bodies are set up there, and some of them are quangos, and the Arts Council do a lot of good work, but the money must go down to where it's needed, into the pockets of the people who we need again to revitalise our economy, who we need again to pass on their talents and stimulations and education to the Dalty and the dancing school, the boys and girls who come, and some of them end up in the World Championships and indeed in Riverdance, and they need to be supported as well, and the money must go down to them, as I said. Also, Minister, on Post Network, we have a Grantown report there that needs 80 million. Former Minister Naughton knows the issues there. We need to support our post office network. They are vital now more than ever, the small rural post office and the urban ones, because they know the people and the connectivity with the people. And if someone's missing or someone's a bit down or doesn't turn up, they're the first people to press the panic button. So the post office network must get funding and it must get down to them, and that money appropriated today won't be enough at all. And I honestly believe that. And Garda Síochána, of course I welcome 600 extra recruits, and that's been looked for because there was no recruiting for so long, and we need those recruits and we need the extra Garda fleet. But I want to make a special appeal here, and we had seen it in Tipperary during the pandemic. The community division has been reincarnated and reinvigorated, but spoke to our local superintendent today, Superintendent Dennis Whelan, and Care Garda Station. They don't have the numbers, and invariably day in, day out, the numbers on the community policing unit, and the same in Clonmel and other parts of County Tipperary. Cashel is under Care, and indeed Tipperary town, a whole lot of them, they're pulled off into normal duties because there are enough numbers. We need more numbers in the community policing, and we need them to be supported. And as I said, they do excellent work under Sergeant Ray Maloney in Care. As I said, the Garda fleet. Also, Minister, I honestly believe that issues in agriculture is our primary industry. It's not being stimulated, and there's not been enough funds going towards it. I want to question at the very end of my contribution. I don't think we have the right people. I'm not saying to Minister McGrath or Donohoe. We haven't the right people in the department. We need the Whittakers that we had back in the last crisis. And there was a Churchill said, never let a crisis hold you back. We should be out there borrowing. ECB rates are 0.5%, and we haven't touched our banks. Fianna Fáil railed against the banks when they were in opposition, what they wouldn't do. Now they're in government and they haven't touched the banks. The banks are fleecing customers. The banks are at the moment bringing people to the receivers and bringing people into the courts. Our own county register in Tipperary has 60 or 70 repossession orders landed in the top of them the last few days. We can borrow the money now at 0.5%, and other countries are borrowing that money and using it productively to stimulate our economy. We should have regulation to extend the moratoriums, but more importantly, we must get this money from the ECB at those kind of rates and borrow it and have it, some countries are still paying back the money they borrowed from the Second World War. And that's right, that's the way it should be. And that's what solidarity in Europe should be for us. People need to live. The economy needs to move, and the stimulators are out there, and the self-employed, and the ordinary working man and woman. Someone mentioned the plumbers earlier going to work this morning, Deputy Canny. They need to be able to work to continue for our recovering economy. But we can't do it if we haven't money in the system. And the money must be released, and the money must be printed, and the money must be paid back. I'm a businessman all my life. I believe everything is paid back, but at the rates of interest that are there at the moment, amazing opportunities, a missed opportunity by the two ministers today in this government to deal with the banks, to make sure the banks lend, otherwise get rid of them. We bailed out AIB to 90%, I think we own it, and the first thing you in the bank manager and get value for money. We're not getting value for money. They're not supporting our economy, and at the moment they're actually terrorising them, and I couldn't believe that this government and the independents were voting for it, voted to cut the moratorium there a number of weeks ago. So we need the money to flow in the economy, to look after disability, to look after the elderly. We can only get a fiver for our elderly, our pensioners, who didn't get a penny in PUP, and him that are under PUP payments, and him that are working in taxis or whatever, or lorry drivers. drivers. They've been neglected again, a miserable fiver. And the carbon tax is going to have a draconian effect on rural Ireland. Every man's tank of diesel, every agricultural contractor, every lorry man, everything else. This this policy is lovely in paper, but in reality, it's going to punish people that put home heating, fill their tanks with home heating oil. Go to